Hello there, and welcome to the Cascade Games Scorekeeper Lessons. As always, I'm your host Jonah, and today we're going to dive into the introductory course of the Star Wars Unlimited Scorekeeper certification. The goals of these lessons are to provide information to future Star Wars Unlimited scorekeepers and to set some expectations about this role. We've previously discussed judges and how they are responsible for making sure the rules of the game are followed, the tournament runs in a timely manner, and that players feel safe and assisted. But if judges are focused on all of that, what else is left to do? Why do we need scorekeepers? Why do you need this certification? Scorekeepers handle a lot of tasks that require them to be at their station, and that means that they can't be out on the floor answering questions while handling them. For smaller events, it's possible to manage both responsibilities, but as events scale up, it becomes more important to have a dedicated scorekeeper. Furthermore, while the key functions of running an event are relatively straightforward, a lot of scorekeeping software is complex and has a lot of features that you may not be aware of and, frankly, won't need to use 90% of the time. However, there are tools and utilities that individuals who are intimately familiar with the software can take advantage of, and these experts are our scorekeepers. This certification isn't going to make you a master scorekeeper immediately. In fact, this is just one of a few scorekeeper tracks we have planned, and that higher level of expertise will come with those later lessons. Furthermore, while a lot of scorekeeping is effectively knowing which buttons to press, there's a fair amount of it that's more philosophical in nature. For example, when should you repair a match, or leave it as is, or repair the whole round? These are questions of logistics and philosophy that you'll gain through these lessons and through experience. This is one of 4 lessons for the Introductory Scorekeeper certification, which you can earn by completing a short exam. This certification does not require an endorsement, but the exam will cover material from this lesson as well as directly from Melee, so having some practical experience will be very beneficial. Now, what is a scorekeeper? Tournaments are usually run using software that matches players against each other. The process of matching a new round, in Star Wars Unlimited's case, is fairly simple and can even be done using a phone. But not everything is simple about a tournament. Setting it up and making sure all players are correctly registered is not easily done without a computer. Fixing results, editing deck lists, and having an overview of penalties are also more challenging to do from your phone. But some things go beyond matchmaking software, like dealing with printers and statistics. At smaller tournaments, like your weekly LGS ones, or even at some planetary qualifiers, judges can usually manage the scorekeeping tasks, maybe with the help of a store employee. But as events become larger and more complex, the need for a specialized staff member grows. Scorekeepers are also the members of the staff who use all of the power of the computer, and printers, and internet, and everything else to support judges and players, and sometimes even the fancy coverage team that you watch during big events. We'll learn about what these tasks are and how to perform them in the next few lessons and in later certification tracks. Before we dive into specifics, though, we should start from the beginning. Tournaments. As you've played at a weekly event at your local game store, you may have heard you have 55 minutes to play a best of 3 match or 25 minutes for a best of 1. These numbers were not randomly chosen by your local organizer. They are defined in the Star Wars Unlimited tournament documents. Have those at hand for your studies, as they are very relevant to scorekeeping. Of course, in order to communicate well with your players and staff team members, it would be useful to understand the game terminology and concepts. So if you're a dedicated scorekeeper, you may also want to consult the Star Wars comprehensive rules as well. According to the tournament documents, a scorekeeper's responsibilities are utilizing tournament software to accurately track each player's win-loss record, ensuring that each player is paired with the correct opponent, and correcting errors in players' records or round pairings. More than that, though, scorekeepers are a part of the staff. Players are our customers, and we are hired to take care of them. They often do not know the difference between the 3 p.m. draft scorekeeper and the Galactic Championship deck checks team lead, and it's okay that they don't know it. We must ensure that our main tasks are taken care of, but we must also find solutions and support for our team and our players to the best of our abilities. For example, don't get out of your station to bring a player to their table on the other side of the floor if it's very far away, because there may be people waiting for you to launch their next round. But what you can do is point them in the correct direction if you're familiar with the venue layout at a larger venue, or the general event schedule, or find another judge who can help with you. This also applies to information about your local store's restrooms, power outlets, or closest cafe. Questions big and small. You can point people to what they need without leaving your station and where people can find you easily. Some problems or questions are not yours to solve, but you can make an effort to ensure you are the final deviation in this player's journey by bringing them to the person who is able to deal with it. A judge, the TO, your local LGS clerk. If you're not able to answer the question themselves, bring them to the person who can. Similarly, can a judge check by themselves what's the name of a player's last opponent? Absolutely, but you can probably do it faster and more easily with access to all of the scorekeeping tools. On the other hand, judges can teach players how to report their results, drop from a tournament, or what time the next round starts as well, or maybe even better than you, and it lowers the burden on you if they do that regularly. Prioritize and support and ask for support. Now, most card games offer two primary categories of tournaments: constructed and limited. Constructed events are those in which players show up to play with their own deck. Limited events are those in which players build their deck during the event, with no need to bring cards from home. As defined in the Star Wars Unlimited tournament documents, Star Wars Unlimited supports a couple formats of constructed events: Premier, Twin Suns, Eternal, Trilogy. They have many differences in rules and deck constructions, but these don't really matter from a scorekeeper's perspective. Players simply get paired, sit down, and play. Star Wars Unlimited also supports a couple formats of limited events: sealed play and draft play. During a sealed event, players receive a number of booster packs and maybe special packs, a pre-constructed deck, or other material, and must build their deck out of the cards they open from this material. This means that there is a deck construction phase before any actual matches happen. Draft play adds even one more step. Instead of simply opening packs, players are assembled into pods, typically made up of 8 players, and must draft the cards they'll use to build their decks. In some events, they'll also play only opponents from the same pod as them. As you can imagine, drafts have many more details that we should pay attention to, but that's not something that we need to get worried about right away. Now, let's talk about the phases of a tournament. From the scorekeeper's perspective, a tournament has roughly 5 parts. During preparation, we make sure that we have the adequate tools to launch the event: an assigned judge, an internet connection, a printer, etc. It's good to verify that we have the tournament's fact sheet informing us of its number of rounds, prize structure, and whatever else we, our team, and our players may need to know. Some organizers may also ask that scorekeepers handle prizes and perform other tasks, so get all of this aligned and know what your expectations are. Once all of this is set up, you may enroll players and make sure that any registration exceptions are taken care of. You may need to assign a fixed table to a player, for example, or deal with typos, double entries, and other issues during registration. With your player list ready, it's time to kickstart the tournament. Check that you have the final and correct information about the starting table number, number of rounds, and any other special parameters. Print the initial papers for your team, publish initial seedings for your players, and get the show started. For in-store events, this step is usually minimal, as you're often only launching one event on the day. When players have started playing, or assembling their decks, we have a routine of dealing with no-shows and end-of-round procedures and flipping the round. This is usually relaxed, but timing and communication are fundamental here. Then, after a few, or sometimes way too many hours, players have finished their matches and we can wrap it up. Make sure all teams have the appropriate information they need for pricing, marketing, floor management, and whatever else has been asked of you by the tournament organizer. Clean out your station, stretch your back, and close the tournament tab on your browser. You can rest now, or get prepared for the next event. For the last portion of this intro, let's understand a bit about how players get to play. In our case, what we mean is, how are they paired? Let's look at 2 of the most common methods as presented in our tournament documents. Our main method to find opponents is called Swiss. The Swiss pairing system was first implemented in 1895 by Dr. Julius Muller. We don't need to know this, but it's a fun fact. What we must know about Swiss pairing system is, for the first round, players get paired randomly. Players get match points after each round. In our case, 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and 0 points for a loss. Other games may use different amounts of points per win, draw, and loss. Players get paired with players who have the same number of points as them, or as close to them as possible. Within each points group, players are paired randomly, except players generally don't face the same opponent twice during the same phase, with some very limited exceptions. Also, suppose it's impossible to find a suitable opponent for a player. most commonly because there is an odd number of participants. In that case, the player is assigned a random buy, which counts as a win. Since pairings start from the player with the most points and go down, random buys are generally awarded to a random player with the fewest points, usually with no wins. Swiss rounds are used from weekly play to most rounds of large and professional events, but there are other possibilities. This includes single elimination, which is the second pairing method we should be aware of. Using this system, when a player wins, they advance to the next round. If they lose, they're eliminated from the tournament. Simple enough. For this kind of tournament, we usually set up a bracket, which you can see in the lesson below. A significant detail here is that when the number of players is a multiple of 4, and this is not the beginning of a tournament, which is the case in the final phase of competitive tournaments when we cut to top 8 or top 4, we must use the standings of the previous rounds to build our bracket. The player in first place will face the one in last place, second place will face second to last, and so on, as you can see in the bracket. 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, 4 versus 5, 3 versus 6. And that's it for our introduction. In the next lessons, we'll actually start building events according to what we've learned or reviewed here. If you're watching this on YouTube and you want more lessons in your feed, go ahead and subscribe. Join us after new lessons on twitch.tv/SWU_judges for live broadcasts covering the content of these lessons as they're released, and join the Star Wars Unlimited Judge Program Discord to join the community in discussion of this and much, much more. As always, good luck and have fun.